Hi, I'm Dan Katz from University of Illinois. We're going to be talking today with Abby. Abby, do you want to just introduce yourself briefly and maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and your background related to software and teams and communities?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Abigail Cabunoc Mayes. I have a background in computer science and bioinformatics. So I actually started my career writing scientific software at the Cancer Research Institute, and I found that really meaningful work, and it was really exciting. And that's actually where I learned about open science, the idea that the software I was making could be used by anyone in the field and was contributed to by many people. It showed me the power of collaboration in this field and just in making innovation go further. So the longer I was doing that, the more I realized how important it was for people to be collaborating online, especially in science. So then I joined Mozilla when they were starting the Mozilla Science Lab. And that's when I really was trying to bring this past just the Cancer Research Institute I was at, but to all fields of science. And that's when I realized how often scientists are working on a really interesting problem. And there's all sorts of developers that really want to help you and help with science move forward. But scientists are making it really difficult for their work to be collaborated on. They'd sometimes use a lot of jargon or use very specialized software or very specialized platforms. So that made it really difficult for other people to come and get involved. So that's when I realized what the importance of building these teams and making your work more open is, and how to be more welcoming in your work. So that's when I started really focusing on this idea of open leadership and how do you lead a project in a way that it's open for anyone to come and get involved in, so that we can have the best people in the world come and work on these problems.
So, can you say a little bit about then what you're doing with open leadership now and kind of what your job is?
Yeah. So at Mozilla, I actually founded Mozilla Open Leaders, which it's a mentorship and training program for people running open projects. And we've trained over 600 projects globally, which is really exciting, and it's really rewarding to see. So we really focus on these principles of open leadership. So how can you be making your project accessible for others? How can you be really welcoming for people who come in? And how can you be really inclusive so that you do have a great diverse set of people working on your project? So I've been leading the piece through open leadership, and more recently I've been leading our developer focused strategy around trustworthy AI and open source. So how can we really be using these principles of open leadership to build the best kind of AI that will benefit humanity? So
when you say the principles of open leadership, or is that something that you can kind of list or talk about a little bit? Like what's important there?
And I would say,
people that are leading a project, what should they be doing?
Yeah, and I think there's a few things I can point you to.
Okay,
and
we can add some links in the afterwards.
Yeah. So I'll put some links in the open leadership training series. But really, yeah, I'd say the definition that we have of open leadership is like open leaders. Hold on, I need to look this up.
Yeah, well, it's always good to get things right.
Yeah, I don't want to get it wrong. So we do have this open leadership map, and hoping this part can be edited a little bit.
We'll see how good this works, but okay.
That's okay. Okay, so we do have 3 principles to help define openness. First is understanding, so making sure that your work is clear and accessible for others. Sharing, that the work is easy to adapt, reproduce, and spread. And then thirdly, it's participation and inclusion. So how can you build this shared ownership and agency with contributors through accountability, equity, and transparency to make the work inviting and sustainable? So those are the 3 sort of principles of openness that we talk about. That's not quite the definition of open leaders. Here's the definition. So open leaders, they design, build, and empower contribution pathways to projects to help promote openness and social good across society. That's not the definition I was thinking of, but that's okay. We can go with that. Okay. Sorry, this is a little bit all over the place.
No, that's all right. I guess, so one of the things I think that I really appreciated that has been particularly helpful to me has been this idea of progression. Can you talk a little bit about that and kind of some of the different stages and how, right, how leaders can help people, potential contributors, move into a project?
Yeah, and I think the reason why I think progression is so important is that often I see people sort of put their team together for an open project and then think that they're done with the community part. They can just work on this project until it's done. But really, for a sustainable community, you need new people coming into your project, and you need a way for people in your project to level up, because someone won't be leading their project forever. People get busy, people change jobs. So you need to have new people coming in so that they can become leaders in your project eventually. So that's how you create something that's sustainable longer term. So one thing that's really important is bringing new people in, which is like promotion, having events, just talking to others. But then really, once people get into your project, how do you level them up? So that you don't just have a bunch of newcomers who are only fixing typos in your project, but how can you get them to sort of contribute more and more until they become leaders themselves? So I think there's a few ways to do that. And we call this mountain of engagement. So what can you do to bring people up this ladder, up this mountain of engagement? So first you have to think about how do they discover your project, but then how do they have first contact with your project? And how do you make it easy for discovery and first contact to happen? So the first contact might be, they might tweet at you, they might sign up for the email list, they might come and talk to you at an event. And after first contact, there's participation. So now that they've talked to you or joined a mailing list or something, how do they actually participate? Is it really easy for them to file a bug? Is it easy for them to make a pull request? How do you lower that barrier to get to participation? Then from participation to sustained participation. So once somebody has submitted a pull request, what makes it more likely for them to submit another one or to keep contributing to your community? And often that's like saying thank you to them after that first pull request, or inviting them to do another issue, or just really recognizing the work that they've done so they come back and they want to help more. And after sustained participation, we look at networked participation. So how can they start bringing others from their network into your project? What has to happen for them to really want to invite other people and be a little bit of a leader that way? Then from network participation, there's leadership, which could be anything from being a maintainer for a part of your project to leading the whole project, to maybe running a workshop, or doing any form of leadership there.
So I guess, sorry, that leads me into a couple of different thoughts. I'm trying to think about which makes sense. So I guess one of them is, are there examples of projects, particularly in the kind of science or engineering domain, that you maybe would say are really exemplars of doing this well?
Yeah, I think what first came to mind actually is Jupyter Hub. I think they're doing a really good job with bringing new people into the work. And then also lately, they've been thinking a lot about leadership and governance. So how do you like bring people up to that level and then have a really sustainable way to govern that project afterwards? I think they're a great example. There's a lot of other ones. I don't want to just list all the projects I know. Yeah. Okay,
no, I was just thinking of something that people could look at, trying to something specific that, right, you could,
yeah.
Then the other question that I was wondering about is, because this Collegeville workshop is in some ways is trying to look at research software in a somewhat systematic way. Are there? I mean, so I think everything that you've said resonates with me and kind of matches my experience. But if I was going to try to prove this to somebody, is there any evidence that you could point to that says like that these things work and these things don't work, or these things work better than these other things, or if not, do you have any thoughts about how we might actually gather such evidence?
Yeah, so the evidence I used internally at Mozilla. So the very first time we ran this mentorship program, there were about 20 projects that I mentored personally. And every year, starting a few years before this, we had run the global sprint, which is 2 days of just like an online hackathon for scientific open projects. And the year that I mentored projects before the global sprint, we had a 7-fold increase in activity compared to the years prior. So I think I thought it really showed how the importance of mentoring people so that they know how to make their projects more welcoming just led to so much more work actually happening on the project. So it made it easier for people to come in and actually interact on GitHub at least.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think, yeah, so case studies in some sense or examples
Yes.
that demonstrate something are particularly helpful.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's a specific case study which I used to keep running Mozilla Open Leaders for many rounds after that. But I think anecdotally you can see it in a lot of projects, and I think there have been studies. I can try to pull them up after this call, maybe. Yeah.
Sure. No, that'd be fine. Yeah, I mean, I guess the other thing is the fact that your program keeps growing means that people are satisfied with them. They feel like it's helping them, and they bring in other people. And, right? And so in some ways, you're doing the same thing in the program that you're talking about teaching.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think that's probably about it for time. I don't. Is there anything you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, just continue the great work you're doing. I think scientific software is so important, and it's so important that we need to make it open so that other people can help and contribute to it. So yeah, I just really want to encourage you to keep doing the hard work to make your work open. I know it's not easy, and you have to be quite vulnerable sometimes to do this, but it's worth it in the end.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for taking the time to talk with us.
Thanks so much, Dan.